Hello everyone, I'm Alfian and today we are going to solve the HackerRank challenge on the problem solving section called the Utopian tree. And for this particular challenge, we are using the TypeScript as our language. If you want to use something else other than TypeScript, then go ahead. I encourage you to do so. And for this particular challenge, we have the function called the Utopian tree that takes one parameter called the n with the data type of number, and the expected output of this function is in the form of number, and we can return 0 for now. And challenge says the Utopian tree goes through 2 cycles of growth every year. It's spring, it doubles the height. Each summer, its height increases by 1 meter. A Utopian tree sapling with a height of 1 meter is planted at one onset of spring. How tall will the tree be after the n growth cycles? For example, if the number of growth cycles is n equals to 5, the calculations are as follows. We have the period of 0, which is the initial value, and the height of 1, which is on the onset of the summer or the spring. I'm sorry, it is the spring, not the summer. And we should start from the period of 1 since it's starting from the summer, and period 2 is the period 1 is the spring and the period 2 is the summer. Why? It's because the tree only grows through 2 cycles every year. So cycle 1 is the spring, cycle 2 is the summer. So in other words, we can use the utility like the odd and even period number check, and the next one is spring, and the fourth one is summer, and the last cycle, which is the end cycle, in a form of spring. And the height, we have the initial height of 1, and since it's spring, then the initial height will be doubled from 1 times 2 is equals to 2, and each summer will be increased by 1 meter, and 2 add by 1 is equals to 3, and the next spring is multiplied by 2 again, which is 6, and the next summer, which is on the year 2, we have 6 added by 1 is equals to 7, and the third year of spring, we have the 7 times 2 equals to 14 meters. And without further ado, let's solve this challenge by creating a variable called the period. I'm using the let variable is because period will be mutated along the line with the height, and we have one more variable called the height, and this one will be mutated along the way as we loop through the n parameter, which takes 1 meter of the initial value. And if you want to use for loop, then you can do it, but for this sake of the challenge, I'm using the while loop. While the period is below or equals to the n value or the desired period of the maximum period, then of course we can add the period by 1, or using the period equals the period by 1. It is the same thing as using the period plus plus. And above the period, before increasing the period by 1, we need to check if the period is on spring, and the next one if it is on summer. Then we can add an if check if the period to check if it's odd number or if it's spring, it is spring. Then we can use the odd check by using the period modulo 2 is divided by 2 to check if the remainder is not 0. Since 1 divided by 2, we have the remainder of 1, then of course it is not equals to 0. The modulo check of modulo 2 we only applies on the even numbers, such as 2 divided by 2 or 2 modulo 2, we have the remainder of 0, then of course this one is not eligible because it is an odd check. And if it's equals to 0, then it is an even check, which is the opposite of the odd check. It is applied on period of the number of 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on and so forth, multiplied by 2 and also divisible by 2. Since it is not divisible by 2, since it will returns a remainder which is other than 0, then of course it is on spring. We can use the height since it's spring, As you remember it, spring it doubles the height. Using the height equals height that takes the own parameter or the own variable using the times 2. And for the next one, we can use the else if it's an even check if it's divisible by 2, which is equals to 0, it has no remainder. Then of course we can use the height. In other words, it is on summer. We can use height equals to height plus 1. I deliberately using the traditional while loop check and also the if check, and also using this multiplied by 2 and added by 1 instead of using the height plus plus or the period plus plus. And so after that we can return our result. Instead of 0 from the placeholder right here, we can use the height as our returning variable. So let's run the code to see if it works, and let's submit this. Okay, so that's about it. If you want to use something else other than this traditional method, then you can go ahead use the more simplified version. I'm using this one is by balancing between the readability and simplicity. We can change this one to be, instead of height multiplied by 2, we can simply use the multiplier operator using the asterisk and equal sign, and using the height itself multiplied by 2. And also the same thing goes to the summer check using the height plus 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 or plus equals to 1 right here. For the simplicity, using the height plus plus, and also the period using the period plus plus. And we can run the code again to see if it works. And you can simplify this further by using, instead of this if check, we can use this. Let me comment this out by using more simplified if check just by one line, by creating a ternary operator using the height equals, using the if check period, it check if it's divisible by 2 or it is not returning a remainder, 0 if it's an odd number. Then of course after the question mark, then you can add the height using the multiplied operator by 2, and after the colon sign, if it's an even check, we can use the height plus plus. And we can run the code again to see if it works. And we have an error. Let's see what went wrong. Instead of using the height plus plus, then we can use the height plus 1. So let's run this again. Okay, so let's submit this. That is the difference between using the height plus plus and the height plus equals operator with the 1 after the operator itself. So that's about it. I hope you understand my explanation. If you still don't understand, you can ask me in the comment section, or if you have any better solutions regarding this challenge, tell us what you think in the comment section. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.